You know what? I'm not one for like coming on here and ranting and airing my frustrations at the world and my frustrations at the thing that I'm passionate about the most, apart from my family, of course. But the thing you love, the thing you spend so much time on doing, the thing you give up so much time to do, the thing you spend so much money doing, the thing you travel for, you do everything in your power to get so much enjoyment out of it. You see a bit of progression, and then suddenly you take two steps forward and two steps back, or two steps forward and three steps back. Because I'm absolutely, livid. I'm livid. I'm livid at the system. I'm livid at the system. I'm livid at what way West Ham conduct themselves, at how West Ham conduct themselves from all levels, from above down to below. Because I don't think we're unique in that situation. I think we're unique to a certain extent. I think there's a small section of clubs that deal with the mannerisms of how we deal with stuff. I think what makes us unique is we're West Ham, who play in the Premier League, who have done and achieved high things over the last couple of years, and we're mixing it up with the big boys. And therefore, when we're doing that, we are conducting ourselves in a specific manner that lets ourselves down. Now, I do believe the top four clubs, they let themselves down. Of course they do. They always do. There's always situations that come out that provide evidence to say that their ownership is a disaster. And I do believe in the element of the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And that's the whole argument about where West Ham fans are talking about when it comes to David Moyes. Is the grass greener? Some fans are saying, yes, it is. And some fans are saying, no, it's not. And that's a debate for another day. It's a debate for now. Whatever you want to say is, the buck stops with David Moyes on the park. The buck stops with him because he's the coach. He's the tactics. He's the man who sets up the team. He's the man that sets up the system. And West Ham play at home, and we play a low block and look for the draw and are happy with the draw. I listened to his post-match press conference, and he's like, "Listen, we tried a new system. It didn't work," and I take that on the chin. But I feel like, as much as he's saying we tried a new system, he is also clever enough to know that we don't have a big squad, but there are players there that could be utilised differently. And that system can change, and West Ham can be at home and try and take the game to Bournemouth. We made Bournemouth look okay. We made Bournemouth look good. I'm not even saying they look good, because I don't think they looked amazing. I just think that the game as a neutral looking in would have been quite crap to watch. Simply quite crap. It was a boring Premier League game. It was one of those ones that was televised. And you're thinking, what the fuck are you doing televising that game? It's pretty ridiculous that game was chosen again. The same with other games that West Ham have been involved in before in the past. And we're at home, and you want us to have that little bit of, I say the word all the time, I say the saying all the time, but it's true. That's the va-va-voom. It's the excitement. There's something that gets you going, that gives you the drive to achieve. When West Ham are on the up at the London Stadium, and we've got 5 minutes of good possession, and we're nearly scoring, wow, the atmosphere drives, the fans are buzzing, there's an excitement, but then suddenly we put the stops on. And that's me addressing the game. I've addressed the game. It drives me insane how we have dealt with that game against Bournemouth yesterday. It drives me insane that we've got potentially a player on our bench, Cornet, who could change the dynamics of the game by getting a bit more game time, like making him feel more comfortable in the situation. When we're looking at making a substitution, and the player he brings off possibly understand it to a certain extent, but in actual fact don't, because I think he was becoming better as the game was going on, was Calvin Phillips. I actually didn't think he should have came off. The player that should have came off was the ineffective player in Tommy Soucek. That didn't make sense to me. That really didn't add up to me. It was like, I was like, what are you doing? Like, how can you make a decision like that and just favoritize your player that you do all the time? Like, there's frustrations there. There is. People can't turn around and say to me there's not. But then really the biggest issue I've got really is with West Ham's system, West Ham's hierarchy, West Ham's structure behind the scenes. Like, who is in charge? Who is doing what? It doesn't matter what we hear, what is actually happening, because the mannerisms and how we're dealing with the transfer market, the mannerisms and how we're dealing with outgoings, the mannerisms and how we're dealing with incomings are actually borderline disgraceful. It goes all the way back to the Carvalho potential deal for West Ham, bringing him in, the Portuguese international from Sporting Lisbon, and sending in a duff bid through an email that then their owner decided to release. And when you read it, you're like, what is David Sullivan doing? It's the way that we conduct ourselves in the professional corporate world that makes you think, shit, will this eventually tumble and go wrong? People are thinking that, we're lucky and things are going to tumble and go wrong because we've got David Moyes at the wheel. In actual fact, you need to park that mindset and concentrate at the higher level. It's the higher level at West Ham is the issue. That's where the problem is stemming from us, because when we need strength and depth, and we need strength and depth, no matter the fact that David Moyes has always worked with a small squad. Every single team he's gone to, I don't know if he's ever worked with a smaller squad than what he's working with right now. It's tiny, and we are one injury away from nearly every position and being in trouble again. And that could be the other situation. So if the hierarchy is in charge and you listen to David Moyes' post-match press conference, which says, what's happening with Ben Rama and Fornals? And he's turning around and saying, well, I don't know. Are you saying to me you don't believe him? Are you saying to me he's the decision maker? I don't think he is. But I also don't think Tim Steidten is. I think they're all being brought in to do their job, but the person who's the decision maker is the person up the top, and that's David Sullivan. I genuinely am putting it on him. The way we do our business is bozo business, man. It's ridiculous. Like, we're dealing with things like we're in the 20th century, but we're in the 21st century in the biggest league in the world, and we need to handle ourselves a lot better. You know, the situation with Ben Rama about Olympique Lyonnais coming out, and they're not going to give up on this. They're not going to give up on that. They're going to push the boundaries with West Ham. They're going to say that you scuppered the deal. I don't know what the complications are if we did do that, and how they could even evidence that. I don't know. But I'm simply done. Have always been done with the ownership at the club, and I'm always got this underlying butterfly feeling about our situation up there, because when things seem to be going good, like you're bringing someone in who's reputable like Tim Steidten into the club, and you've got Mark Noble doing his job, Ron Newman, you're building a structure behind the place, you're building a full-blown scouting system as well. I can't help that I eventually always go back to the ownership of the club, and I think, well, no matter what you're trying to do, as long as you're ran from this muppet, then you will have problems moving forward. There's that ongoing saying that you could bring Messi to the club and West Ham would ruin him. You could bring any striker to the club around the world, Benzema, Mbappe, and West Ham would ruin him. But I also feel like it's just any real position at West Ham, it possibly could happen. It could be happening with the manager. It could happen with the technical director. It could happen with the sporting director. The buck stops, and this transfer window again highlights to me the frustrations. We have a chance again to push, and we haven't done it. I'm hoping we can still push. The half glass full West Ham fan in me is hoping we can still push on and try and achieve and overachieve and try and go far in Europe and try and qualify for Europe, etc., etc. But the practical side of it is, the realistic side of it is, that we have a really thin squad, and we've got potentially two players. We'll find out more today what the official documentation situation happening with Real Betis and Pablo Fornals inside Ben Rama and Leon. But if those deals don't go through, we've got two players that we've just whipped it away from them. What is that going to do for their morale? What is that going to do for them moving forward? Will that help the morale of the squad? We're already low in numbers. What's that going to do? Honestly, you could not write it as a West Ham fan. And to be honest with you, I can't go on again about it because it's driving me insane. So I'm going to leave yous. I'm going to love yous and leave yous. Take it easy, of course, everyone, and come on, you irons.